Hello and welcome to Rising Earth News. I'm Lauren and I'm here today with Natalie Fée, an award-winning environmental campaigner, author, speaker and founder of City to Sea, a non-for-profit organisation running campaigns to stop plastic pollution at its source. Thank you so much for joining me today, Natalie.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Lauren.
So first question I have for you is, please can you tell us about City to Sea, the organisation itself, what inspired you to start it?
City to Sea is an organisation which I founded back in 2015. In 2014, I became aware of the problem of plastic pollution and was working in TV at the time, but felt really motivated, absolutely convinced I needed to do something to stop really to help the plight of the albatross chicks was my main kind of motivator. I set up City to Sea with the idea that we could run campaigns and initiatives that stopped plastic pollution at source, which really stopped it from getting into our oceans in the first place. And so I set it up as a non-profit in Bristol. Officially we started as a CIC in 2016, and we started with a couple of big campaigns, one of which is still thriving today. So we did our Switch the Stick campaign, which was our campaign to get all of the supermarkets in the UK to stop using cotton buds made of plastic and to switch them to paper instead. And that stopped over 400 tonnes of non-recyclable single-use plastic a year since 2017. So since those changes were implemented across all the supermarkets in the UK. So that was epic and good fun. And at the same time, we were building our refill campaign, which is the campaign to get people off of single-use plastic bottles and to be refilling their bottles on the go. And so we did that through developing an app, which we won some funding for, and building community schemes. And today we've had over 300,000 downloads of the app, and we've got over 400 community schemes, and it's in 7 countries. So
wow.
And now it's beyond water, so you can use the refill app to find like zero waste shops and discounts on like your coffee and lunch and things like that. So we also sort of carried on with the theme with Switch the Stick of plastic being flushed down the toilet. We also had a big interest, being a female-led organisation, in the sort of hidden plastic in our period products. So we developed our plastic-free periods campaign back in 2017, and that's gone on to become a phenomenal education programme called Rethink Periods. So that's some of the headlines.
So Natalie, as we're now in our second lockdown, how can we use this time to really think about our waste and our plastic, production, and why is it so important that we really think about this now?
Well, it's an interesting question, because I actually, certainly in like the first lockdown, I think sort of people had their health was more sort of front of mind. And it was maybe harder to get to the shops that you could get to that might have less packaging. And I just think it was sort of important to say, look, okay, let's take the pressure off needing to be perfect environmentalists whilst we're dealing with a global pandemic. But then obviously we saw then the onslaught of PPE and the sort of the waste from masks and sanitizers. And so at City to Sea, we sort of spoke out about that and created some great video content that we put out for PPE, encouraging people to wear reusable masks, and for contactless coffee, encouraging people to still take their reusables out with them and how to do it safely. So it was a space, definitely plastic, the sort of plastic pollution space, and that kind of campaign took a back step with COVID, with all of that surge of single use, and the plastic industry very much have capitalized on that and have seen it as a chance for them to sort of win back public trust. So we've been very active in that time to make sure that it doesn't sort of let the plastics industry get a foothold again. Luckily, the Environment Bill is obviously still sort of going through here in the UK. The ban on straws and cotton buds and stirrers finally came into effect in October, and in Europe that's happening too through the Single-Use Plastics Directive. So change is happening, but I think the reason we need to be so aware of waste and single-use items now as ever before, really, is just sort of the pressure on our planet, and that we don't have the resources to continue feeding our kind of addiction to single-use plastics in the way that we have.
Just going back to specifically talking about ocean pollution, do you have any facts and figures that you can kind of give our viewers now, which will, really just show the emphasis of how much plastic is really, going into our waters? Because I think sometimes a lot of people don't really have any idea of the mass scale of plastic and just pollution that we are emitting into our waters.
So it's said to be around sort of between 8 and 12 million tons of it going into the oceans every year, which is kind of hard for us to get our heads around. There have been stats like saying that's like a garbage truck of plastic going into the sea every 8 seconds or something like that.
Wow.
But I think it's interesting to see that out of those, they come from different sources. So around 9 million of the 12 million comes from land, and that's through our sewers. That's runoff from roads. It's litter. It's sort of waste escaping from the waste system, and it's also microplastics. So around 1 million tons of it is microplastics. And then some of it, obviously, the rest is then sort of more like fishing litter, so the sort of discarded fishing nets and things like that.
Please, can you tell me about your book, How to Save the World for Free?
Of course, it would be my pleasure. Look, I'm even going to hold it up on the screen for you.
Look at that. Beautiful.
So yeah, I wrote How to Save the World for Free. It was published at the end of 2019. That feels like so long ago, saying 2019. I was really feeling like I wanted to talk about the other issues going on in the world and how they related to plastic, but also to take people who'd maybe been switched on to environmentalism through plastic pollution and take them on that journey and look at sort of how it's connected to climate change and what we can do to restore the soil and what we can do to stop deforestation and other forms of ocean pollution. So I wanted it to be sort of hard-hitting but upbeat and practical. So the first sort of fifth of the book very much touches on the 7 things we need to save and sort of what's going on, what's going wrong in the world. And I didn't really beat around the bush in that section. But then I kind of take, the reader by the hand, and we go through every aspect of life, really, from, as someone called it, from banking to bonking, of all the different things that we do in our lives.
Brilliant. Yeah.
that we can green up. So yeah, I think it's quite playful, and I've been getting some great reviews and feedback.
So are there any ways that people can get involved now? How can people show their support and really try and mobilize that change that you're trying to make?
I think sort of one of the simplest ways that people can get involved is to follow us on Instagram or on Twitter on Twitter, Facebook, whatever your medium is. We will put our campaign films and our petitions and things like that on there, and sharing those is a really powerful way of supporting our message and getting the message out to more people. And it can often be sort of overlooked and just think, oh yeah, that was cool, and then sort of scroll on past it. But actually just that small act of sharing it just helps spread the word and engage more people in your sphere of influence. If people are in the position where they can donate as well, then that sort of powering the work that we do through financial donations is obviously really welcome as well. If you haven't already downloaded the Refill app, so anyone that's listening that hasn't downloaded that yet, I think it would be a great thing to do. Let us know what you think. Find your near zero waste shops, and you can start sort of monitoring your impact on there as well. And the other thing is, if you're a teacher or you have got siblings in schools, then our Rethink Periods programme is a very cool education programme which is free to schools, and we train ambassadors to come into the school and deliver a presentation, or we can train teachers as well, and we can do all that virtually as well at the moment. So I think in terms of like what's closest to my heart, I'm very proud of the Rethink Periods education programme, so anyone is welcome to get in touch about that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Natalie. It was an honour to speak to you.
It's been great to speak to you, and thanks for helping get the word out and using your talents for the cause as well. It's great.
Thank you for watching Rising Earth News. Don't forget to subscribe and follow our socials for your daily dose of positive eco news. Stay safe, stay green, and be a part of the age of restoration.